Created for comics back in 1963, Iron Man is one of Marvel's most famous superheroes, even though there's nothing all that super about Tony Stark. Much like Batman, Iron Man's abilities are all wrapped up in gadgetry only a billionaire genius could afford. So without that special suit, Stark's only real powers are away with the ladies and a twinge of alcoholism.
I need a drink.
That doesn't make Iron Man any less badass, though. So we're taking a look back at his entire video game legacy. Iron Man first appeared in arcades back in 1991 as a playable character in Data East's Captain America and the Avengers. Armed with a devastating punch, repulsor beams, and even the ability to take flight, it was an impressive debut indeed, as one of the only games that had an authentic comic book look and even full voice acting.
I can't move!
Sadly, he only shows up in the NES port, basically to get killed in the opening intro.
No!
For his next appearance, Iron Man was essentially demoted to an assist character in the scarcely seen arcade fighter, The Avengers and Galactic Storm. I guess Iron Man had to make room for those more popular Avengers like Black Knight, Crystal, and Thunderstrike. Even in Iron Man's playable console debut, he had to share the spotlight with Exo Manowar and Heavy Metal, a crossover with Valiant Comics for PlayStation and Sega Saturn. But in the late 90s, Iron Man belonged to Capcom. He was proudly selectable alongside Captain America, Wolverine, and Spider-Man in 1996's Marvel Super Heroes War of the Gems for Super Nintendo, and he was among the handful of famous faces in Marvel Super Heroes, the precursor to Capcom's mega-popular crossover fighting series. After a short break from that, Iron Man came roaring back in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Other than a starring role in a Game Boy Advance game, the early 2000s were a little dark for Iron Man, as he was basically reduced to unlockable appearances in X-Men Legends: The Rise of Apocalypse and Tony Hawk Underground?
No!
Then, after a brief cameo in the ridiculously violent Punisher game, Iron Man was back on the rise, joining the enormous roster of playable characters in Marvel Ultimate Alliance and as a main player in EA's Marvel Nemesis: Rise of the Imperfects. Luckily, after that, nearly every game with a Marvel logo featured a significant appearance by the man of very literal steel. From card games to pinball to iPhone to Little Big Planet, Iron Man's status as a Marvel mainstay was officially solidified. He finally got a big-budget game of his own in 2008, and then another, and then some DS games, all to coincide with his blockbuster movies, of course, and he even made a brief appearance in The Incredible Hulk, courtesy of Sega. The kiddies have seen him in 3 titles in the Superhero Squad series, and you guys have probably dropped a smart bomb or two on your buddies in either Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Sadly, there was no next-gen Iron Man game to coincide with the 2012 Avengers film. Oh, there was some pinball representation, an Avengers Alliance Facebook game, but this footage from a canceled THQ Avengers game makes us yearn for what could have been. In a move that will disappoint console-dependent old men like me, Iron Man hasn't had a single solo outing since the forgettable game coinciding with his second film. However, he has appeared in multiple ensemble Marvel games, like Disney Infinity 2.0, as well as the fan service-rich PC Marvel Heroes, and also the depressingly dumb Avengers Battle for Earth, a motion-controlled title for Wii U and Kinect so outrageously oversimplified it feels like a glorified smartphone game. And on that note, it's canonically characteristic for Tony Stark to follow the money, which means that Iron Man is dizzyingly well represented on mobile platforms, from Marvel fighting games like Contest of Champions to Marvel's Puzzle Quest, War of Heroes, Future Fight, Avengers Alliance 2, more pinball games, free runners, high school sims like Avengers Academy, and holy lord does the list go on and on and on. They may not be the traditional games old school players like me are used to, but hey, at least they're free. Whatever the case, with his mechanized weaponry, penchant for slaughtering robots, and ability to upgrade his suit on a regular basis, Iron Man arguably remains Marvel's most perfectly suited video game character. It's an absolute certainty that Iron Man will remain on the video game landscape. However, players like me will still pine for a big-budget Iron Man game I can play with a controller and not have to purchase endgame currency for, even if that's how Tony would have wanted it.